I'm Gilbert. I am a professional climber and also a registered nurse. Ice climbing for about 8 years, and I've pretty much been using Petzl tools from the get-go. Maybe about 7 years I've been using Petzl tools, and mainly the Nomic and a little bit with the Quark, kind of depending upon what my objective is, whether it's more in the alpine or a day climbing steep ice. Here down in Ouray, Colorado, for the last handful of days, new line of tools that are coming out, getting a chance to swing them and play with them and see what we like. As far as the Nomic goes, there are very minute details that have changed, and if you've climbed with the Nomic a lot, you will definitely notice those differences for the better. The pick weights have changed a little bit, the angle of them, which can work well if you're mixed climbing in a crack, or if you're swinging into unconsolidated ice and snow. Those pick weights having a little bit wider of a head are going to catch better in that unconsolidated ice. And then as far as the Quark goes, I think there's a big change with that tool in the alpine setting. It swings very similar to the old Quark as far as ice climbing goes, but now the lower handle, we can flip that in and you can make it much more efficient for plunging into the snow, which I think for those of us that spend time in the alpine, that's a really positive change. And then I've been climbing with this newer tool called the Ergonomic, which is more of a tool that's in line with the Nomic family and less with the Ergo. And it's designed for climbing steep ice, more of that water ice 5 and above. I've been able to take it out on steep ice and it swings amazing. It's definitely designed for steep ice and dry tooling, but it swings really well into the ice. It's more of an advanced tool, but I think for people that are used to the Nomic and really love the Nomic, Ergonomic is going to be a pretty rad step up in their game of ice climbing. You know, climbing a 1-pitch route, or I'm doing a 3 or 4 pitch route. The Ergonomics are definitely the tool for climbing steep ice. I would take them pretty much anywhere, especially over in Europe, like in Chamonix and places like that, where you're climbing technical ice and mixed climbing, on smaller peaks. I definitely think the Ergonomic for steep ice climbing is going to be the tool for me this winter. I think when I go to Alaska and climb, whether up on Denali on the South Face or on Mount Hunter or anything, I'm going to be more inclined to go with the Nomic or the Quark, where it's a little bit lighter, a little more versatile. The Nomics are still a lighter tool. They're a little less aggressive, and so I think for longer alpine routes that will have 1 or 2 pitches of steep ice climbing and some mixed pitches, but also just a lot of snow wallowing, the Nomic is still going to be my go-to tool. The Ergonomic is going to be much more of a steep ice climbing tool, where I'm going up in the parkway and I'm going to go climb Curtain Call, which is a water ice 6 2-pitch route. But in my mind, I still see a difference in where I'm going to take them, and yeah, it's going to be the Ergonomic for shorter couple pitch routes, steep ice, a little bit of hard dry tooling in there. And then the Nomic is much more of that alpine tool for me. So here's the Nomic, the new Nomic, and quickly looking at it, it doesn't look that much different. They've reduced some of the weight in the handle, which is an area that they've been able to shave a good amount of grams off of it. And then also, as I was talking about earlier, the shape of the pick weight has changed. It's longer and wider. So when you're swinging into that unconsolidated ice or snow, it's going to catch a little bit better. And then also with cracks, if you're much like a nut, if you're going into a constriction, it'll sit really well, or if you're torquing it, it's going to sit really well, which oftentimes you can encounter this type of mixed climbing in the alpine. And then they've changed shaft a little bit regarding the shape of our hand and how our hand fits around the tool really well. That is a very micro adjustment, but it's something that throughout the day you're going to notice a big difference. And then they've also changed the hammer that will come with these tools. It's a little bit wider, so that if you're nailing in a piton, you're not going to hit the head of the tool as much. And then the new Ergonomic, you can see there's much more of an aggressive handle. So it's gonna be a little bit of a different swing, where you're gonna kind of flip it through your hand more than an arm swing, which is why it's gonna take, I think, some folks a little bit of time of getting used to it. But the way that handle is it's gonna give you just a little bit more reach, especially over bulges and in that steep ice climbing, where for the Nomic, it's a little bit straighter, as you can see, and so just that change in the handle is gonna allow us to climb more efficiently on steep ice, which is, when you think about it, pretty huge. It adds up over pitch after pitch after pitch. You know, like I said, I've climbed with the Nomic for so many years that I've really figured out the swing of that tool and how I can use it in ice. And the Ergonomic pretty much just takes that swing and it improves it just a little bit more from the sort of the changes that they've made. And you know, the last couple days of using it, I can swing one swing, I'm in, I can step up onto it, reach high and swing again, especially when the ice is steep, because it's just allowing me to get over those little bulges, those little kind of weird angles in the ice. When you anchor it in, you're able to just relax your hands. You're not having to grip as much, which then translates down into your forearm and into your arm. You're able to relax and hang more on that skeleton, which is just goes back to that efficiency. You know, if you're not getting as tired and as pumped, you're gonna be able to climb harder for longer. I think it's one of those things where I could talk about it all day and people will say, oh yeah, that makes sense. But it's not until you get out and try it. And the same thing, the first day, the first couple times I used it, I was like, yeah, I can tell the difference. But the more comfortable I got, a group of us took him out on a 5-pitch route, and I spent a lot of the day swinging with him. And I could just see it getting easier and easier, and it just worked really well. So.